Ladies and gentlemen, let's go.
Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at?
Well, actually, I live in Delaware now, so does that make me a Delawarean?
Singing girl.
You know, Beyonce is my friend in my head. Jay my people sometimes, too.
Yeah. I mean, like, be true, man.
You know, when I was a kid, I had an imaginary enemy. Like, does that make me crazy?
Life as P, presented by Say What Radio.
Hello. Welcome back. If you've joined us before, that is. If not, welcome for your first timers. This is Life as P. I'm your host, Phoenix Ash. I appreciate you joining me today. I'm not one of those people who are like surprised that we're at the end of the year already, because I feel like every year there's a bunch of, oh my God, this year went by so quickly. So at this point, with as many years as I've been on this earth, I've just come to expect that the year is going to go by pretty quickly. And sometimes there's moments in the year that it feels like it's going pretty slow. But by the time we get towards the end of the year, it's just like, wow, that kind of zipped through. So I try not to be too astonished about that thing there. But we're here. I thought I was going to release another book before the end of the year, but there's still time, I guess. A couple weeks. We'll see how this goes. I'm working on it. I'm working on putting the final touches on some stuff. So we'll see how that goes. If you've never read any of my work, please check out my books, Cookies and Crumbles, as well as Soil Sheets and In Her Makeup. All 3 novels are available, or 2 novellas and 1 novel are available on Amazon, as well as Kindle books. In Her Makeup is also available on audiobook and Apple Books. So I'd really like to know like people's opinion of the audiobook. I enjoyed the narrator, but I know not everybody has the same taste. So I just would really appreciate some feedback. Somebody let me know something. I wanted to talk to you guys about holding on to that thing that's in your heart just a little while longer. And what brought this on for me was thinking about what I was hitting for when I was younger. And as many of you know, if you've listened to my first season, I think it's been a long time since I've talked about it. But if you listen to my first season, you know that there was a time in my life that I thought I was going to be a rapper, a successful rapper. It sounds funny to say like out my mouth, but for real. And there was plenty of people who believed that I was talented enough to do it. However, there was something that happened when I was in high school. So I started rhyming when I was like 10. And I was rhyming for a while when I was, I don't know, I think I was a sophomore in high school. So this is before Biggie, before Tupac was killed. I had a dream that I was on stage performing. And while I was on stage performing, someone in the audience brandished a gun and they were looking to hurt me. Now, when I was younger, for a lot of circles, I was most hated. I'm not sure how much I did to contribute to that, but there was a lot of people who looked to jump me on a regular basis. Thank God I ain't never been jumped, but there was people who cornered me off, tried to jump me on a regular basis. There was always something that sort of saved the day for me. But a lot of people, particularly women, hated me for a long time for reasons that I could not understand when I was a child. I just couldn't put it together that it was just so many people that I must just be a horrible person. So I think for a while I kind of was like, F it, I'm going to just be a horrible person. But I had that dream and it sort of gave me stage fright going forward. So the couple of stints that I did pursue music, there was always this thing holding me back, this really big nervousness when it came to thinking about performing and being in circles. And then I dated someone who was heavy in the music game and I lived with him for a while, and just seeing all the ins and outs from that perspective, I felt inadequate. I felt like I wasn't pretty enough, that my body wasn't shapely enough, and I just wasn't enough. My talent wasn't going to carry me. I wasn't willing to go through or go to extenuating lengths in order to accomplish this goal. So there was all these things. But so many times in my life, people have offered me, oh, do you want to work on an album? Do you want to be a part of this project? And I did a lot of writing for people. And every once in a while, every few years, I think I would start to be like, okay, I guess I'll work on an album. But if I feel like there's too much resistance, I'm going to dead it. So I ain't got no albums out. So I guess y'all know how that turned out. But I said all that to say that I think the pursuit of that music and the skills that I honed in that pursuit, in writing, in capturing stories and putting words together, in having a sort of rhythm, a cadence to what it is that I had to write, has helped me, I believe, in my other writing endeavors. But I don't think I would have been able to sharpen those skills or get to the point that I needed to get to in order for it to be helpful in other areas of my life had I not thought that that was my end game. And I'm thankful that I focused so much on that I was able to pull everything I needed to pull out of that, not just the writing skills, but the experience, the different perspective, the different ways in seeing that. And I think all of that plays part in my books and plays part of the scripts that I'm putting together. And if you've read Cookies and Crumbles, you know that I talk a little bit about the music industry. And one of the main characters, True, is a musician. And he's involved in the industry, and some of the things that come his way or some of the things that he's involved with, some of that stuff is negative aspects of the industry, but I also give other perspectives, people who are quote unquote what the outsiders may consider hanger-ons or just entourage or whatever, but just a slight glimpse into what some of that stuff might look like from my perspective. So I think all of that sort of culminates into whatever it is that I'm producing now, what my past experiences were, and me holding on to this thing that I thought was the end game and where I was going to go with it, and being able to soak up everything I was supposed to soak up in order to get me to someplace else. And so sometimes I think that when I have conversations with people, friends and non-friends alike, where they're ready to give up on what's in their heart because it's not producing a particular thing. And I also know a lot of people who were like, I'm glad I never gave up on this thing because it looked like it wasn't producing something, but after 5 years or after 6 years, excuse me, y'all. I'm sorry. This is the second podcast that I yawned, and I'm so sorry. I'm just tired all the time. Anyway, I need some different kind of vitamin or something. But anyway, so yeah, my point. So I know people were like, I was going towards this one particular goal and it looked like it wasn't producing anything. A good example, I think, is Oprah when she launched the OWN network. Within the first year, people were doubting the success of it and talking about how much money it was losing and how much it was trajecting to lose. And she was like, I already know that it takes at least 5 years to see anything blossom into something that looks remotely successful. So she had already gone into it like the first 5 years is all planting seeds. It's all going. And I try to remind myself of that when I'm struggling, where I sometimes look at my pen sisters who are producing 2-3 books a month. I don't really know what their back end looks like. You know what I mean? Like I just see the production, which is what we see when we see on social media, right? We see the production. We don't know if this is a story you had for 15 years that you finally took out your box and was like, let me neaten this up and this is going to be my next book. We don't know. Just like when I released Soil Sheets in July and then I released Cookies and Crumbles in August, it might have seemed to somebody that I was releasing one book a month when in actuality, both of these books have been worked on for the year prior to when they got released. And Soil Sheets was actually a re-release of something that I did independently. So we don't know the back end or whatever, but it's difficult not to question yourself and it's difficult not to question your ability to have the proper output. It's difficult not to question, am I in the right spot? Am I doing what I'm supposed to do? Am I good enough? Am I doing what it is that my calling says that I should do? Am I BSing? I ask myself all the time, like, are you BSing? What's happening? You're not making time to do this thing and you said you want it. So make time and do it. When I have these conversations with people and they're trying to give up on this thing in their heart, like they really don't want to give it up, but there's no production or there's very, very little progress or it's slow. And so particularly when you listen into the outside world and the outside world is like, well, maybe you're just not good at it. oh, you've been doing this thing for 3 years and ain't nothing happened. We have family members, friends, all of that who will throw all of that in your ear and be like, well, how long you been doing this? And you ain't seen no production from it yet? Well, maybe that means you get somebody else's definition of what it means. And you look at what they trying to do and they ain't trying to do anything. And so you like, how you all of a sudden know what it means for somebody to try to do something and you ain't trying to do nothing? I don't know. Maybe you don't have all the definitions. I would say maybe hold on to that thing that's in your heart just a little bit longer, because it may take you someplace else. It may not take you to the place in which you expect it to take you to. It may not necessarily be the destination you have in your mind, but just because you can't foresee it doesn't mean you weren't meant to be it. There was a time in my life where it wasn't on my radar to be signed to a publishing company. Like I said, for years, I think I was 30 and I was still like trying to rap and had not made a splash in the world, had not. And for some people, it's like, oh my God, he was all old. But coming from a child that was listening to BDP and all that stuff, I'm just like, all them people was old. Like, they was mature. So I come from a different perspective. I was talking with someone yesterday and they were like, oh my God, Jay-Z turned 50. I didn't realize he was not of my time. And this person's in their early 20s. And I was like baffled. Like, what? You don't know about Reasonable Doubt? Hold on. You ain't really a fan. So I'm starting to judge. And even so, like Jay-Z, perfect example. I don't know if he always knew he would be the business person that he is. I'm sure he saw himself as a business person, putting music together and doing the behind the scenes of getting a team together to distribute said music. But it was a concentrated effort. It was a lot of people who were involved. And I would venture to say that he didn't foresee where he was now. He didn't always foresee, right? So I think sometimes we do see the next step and maybe even the next 2 steps. But where we end up 5 steps ago, we don't always know that that's what it was going to look like. Even if we thought that's what we were going to do, we don't always know what it looks like. We know what we would like it to look like or what we dreamt of, but we don't always know what it looks like. And I think that we sometimes have more than one dream in our heart. It doesn't always come at the same time, but I think one is to get us to hone some skills that is necessary for us to use in the next. And so that when we get to the next step, we're not starting at the bare minimum. Like the fact that I rap for so long and learned to tell story in a matter of 3 verses helped me get into school for my master's for creative writing. It was something that I was able to contribute to. I was able to produce something that was of interest to them. I feel like it helped me graduate too. I did a whole capstone and wrote a whole television series surrounding about the music industry. This is way before Empire. And it helped me graduate with a 4.0 because, you know, I had something different, unique, something that they never saw before. And I was able to pull in so many different skills. It wasn't just my skill of screenwriting, but it was my knowledge of music. It was my ability to craft songs. I wrote the music for the show and everything. So I feel like that contributed to it. And then in trying to figure out what my next steps were, I did my YouTube series. I took one of the songs that I made that often in this house, music gets lost or systems get shut down or wiped clean. And so you're like, oh my God, I forgot all that stuff. So rather than re-recording a particular song, I made a YouTube series about it. It's called Saved by the Blood. I never finished it though, but there's a couple of episodes up on YouTube if you can find that. Then that transpired into making these kinds of stories even a little longer. And what if I dreamt a little more in depth? And what if I pulled it out just a little bit? This could be a book. And so like one thing contributed to the next. But even with going to school for writing, I went there thinking that I was going to study fiction and I was going to learn how to write like the next great novel, which I still would love to do, but that's not what I came out with. I came out with a degree in screenwriting. When I first went there, I was so afraid of screenwriting. I saw the format. I was like, there's no way I'm going to learn this format. I didn't believe that I had what it took. I didn't even truly feel that I aligned with anything with screenwriting. And it was so crazy to go there and talk to professors and talk to other classmates who are like, the way your mind works, the way that you describe a story, you might be good in screenwriting, specifically teleplays, because the story has so much potential to keep going, which is great for a teleplay. And I was just like, really? And I remember struggling between picking which mentor I was going to go with. And the one for fiction, he was like, I'm going to take you on, but there's these long lists of books that you have not read, and I feel like you need to read them. And they weren't books that were necessarily prevalent in the Black communities. It wasn't that I was unfamiliar with them. I was disinterested. Like, I just wasn't interested in any of them, so I had never picked up any of them to read. I had a few because they were assigned in school, but I probably could have gave him a list of Black authors and their books and been like, well, this is what I consider classics. Have you read them? But, with screenwriting, the person that I was interviewing as mentor, he was so welcoming, so open. He was so appreciative that I would even consider working with him. And he was successful in the business. And he's like, your mind works for this type of writing. But I also think because writing music, and like I said, trying to put a whole story into 3 verses, trying to say so much in a matter of a couple of bars, kind of is like screenwriting. When you write your paragraphs, sentences got to be concise. It got to bring as much information in there as possible. You don't want to have more than 3 sentences in a paragraph, and you want a cadence on the page. You want it to look rhythmic. It's just crazy. I don't think I would have been able to even step up to the plate to even try my hand in it had I not had the background of something that I thought was supposed to be my end game. And even now with writing books, sometimes the feedback that I get is that, oh, you can see everything and this feels like I'm watching a movie. And that's like the biggest compliment to me ever. Like everybody who writes that in a review or sends that to my DM or sends that to me private message, I just want to kiss all over their face because I love that. So it's helping me in another area as well. And eventually my hope is that it'll turn into teleplays, that it will turn into movies, that it will turn into me writing those things. But now where I stand, I'm like, and there's probably something after that. So I can see the next step. I can see on the horizon, like I have the ability. I believe in myself. I'm no longer scared of these things. But there might be something after that. But I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to full-heartedly go after what's in my heart right now. Let it take me to where it's supposed to take me. Let me follow those steps. And the thing that's after that, quote unquote, I may not know what that looks like. I may not know what it is in order to even dream it. It's probably something I've never fathomed. And it's probably something I can't even really think of until I get to the next step that I believe wholeheartedly is my end game. See what I'm saying? So pursue, fulfill, go after what's in your heart wholeheartedly. Yes, progress might be slow and it may take you a minute to tap in, but maybe you're not supposed to fully tap in. Maybe you're just supposed to just go at it and get all these things from it. And then when you are ready, what is next for you will reveal itself to you. There'll be this other tingle in your heart, this other pull on your heartstrings, and you'll be able to walk into your next phase of destiny, so to speak. So don't be so quick to let go of that thing that's in your heart just because progress is slow or you're not seeing the results that you thought you would see. And you may not even be truly realistic about the amount of time in which you were going to see these results. In this day and age, when we're talking about rapid results, people want to lose weight in 30 days. They want to see everything, hear everything. They want to binge watch. They want a whole season straight up. I see people who are like angry that they have to wait for the next book in a series to be dropped because they want to read everything right then and there. It's just speed up the craft. Like, I don't care if it's good, just speed it up. So just feed me. So it's hard not to think about your results in that fashion. It's hard to be like, okay, I've been doing this a year, or I quit my job or whatever. And after a year, nothing has happened. After 2 years, nothing has happened. Like I said, there's so many people who are like, it took me 5 years to truly see a difference. For some, it's 3 years. whatever. But don't be so quick to give up on yourself and what that thing is in your heart. It's there for a purpose. It's there for a reason. And you may not fully understand the reason right now. You may not fully understand what it's for, but pursue it. It's in your heart. Pursue it. Now, if it's murder, don't do that. If it's murder, if it's robbery, if it's anything that can land you in jail or harm someone else, we're going to ixnay the whole conversation. Like, don't do that. But we're talking about passions here, and we're talking about fulfilling who you're meant to be and fulfilling your heart and who you are and the things that drive you. Don't give up on the thing that helps you wake up every day. Don't do that. Please don't do that. That's just where my mind is right now. Just heavy contemplation, just really thinking about, wow, I had no idea that pursuing music with all my heart, even though there wasn't the result that I wanted or the result that I thought should have been coming to me. Just being older and looking back and said, but I had to pursue it. I had to go full force with it in order to sharpen this tool that's in my toolbox. Just don't give up just yet. All right, that's my bit for today. I thank you for joining me. I thank you for everyone who has reached out and asked me about Soil Sheets or Cookies and Crumbles, who have read my books, who have reached out to me for signed autographed copies. Thank God you're purchasing. Thank God. If you want to do any of that, please reach out to me. I'm at P Writes on Instagram. I'm at P Writes on Twitter. I'm Phoenix Ash on Facebook. If you want to join my reader group on Facebook, it's Phoenix's Fireflies, but it's Fire, Fiyah. You know, I had to think about it. Yeah, come on. Come through. Chill with us. Talk to us. Let me know what's popping with you. I sometimes do surveys, share other books, other authors' books that I'm reading. I have a couple of authors who reached out to me who would like to be interviewed on this podcast. So if that's something that you're interested in listening to, please let me know. I'm trying to gauge what the audience interest is before I start introducing these other aspects. But I know I said I was going to do them before, but it didn't look like anybody was interested. So I kind of like dropped the ball on that. But let me know how it goes down, yo. Anyway, I thank you so much for joining me. Again, Cookies and Crumbles available on Amazon as well as Kindle. Soil Sheets is also available on Amazon Books as well as Kindle. In Her Makeup is available on Amazon Books, Kindle, and audiobook. It's on Audible and Apple Books. So check that stuff out. This is a nice season to get your reading going. Maybe buy it for a friend, buy it for the reader in your life, someone who's in college and on college break and they're like, I need to read some stuff to keep my mind going. Pick them up. A sis needs you to pick them up. All right. Well, thank you. Until the next time when we can exchange power. Peace.